The city of Lagos buzzed below like a restless beehive. Cars honked, people rushed through the streets, and the sun beat down on the tall glass buildings that reached for the sky. At the very top of one of the tallest buildings was a man who didn't care about the noise, the people, or the sun. Welcome to Sarah Wood's Tale. Where stories comes alive, please do well to hit that subscription button and turn on your notification bell for subsequent stories. Alexander Steele. He sat behind a massive glass desk, his back straight, eyes cold, and fingers tapping lightly on a tablet. His office was more like a fortress than a workplace, clean, minimal, with smooth grey walls and a breathtaking view of the city skyline. Alexander was a billionaire. Not just rich, but untouchably wealthy. He had built his empire from the ground up after inheriting almost nothing. His company, Steele Holdings, had its hands in everything: construction, real estate, tech. But with all his money, Alexander was known for something else. His heart, or lack of it. Sir, his assistant, Lydia, walked in holding a tablet. The Beijing investors are waiting on your approval for the new contract. Alexander didn't look up. Tell them they either agree to my terms or I pull out. They need us more than we need them. Lydia hesitated. Yes, sir. As she turned to leave, Alexander stood and walked toward the wide glass wall that overlooked the city. His office stretched across the entire top floor of the building, and from this height, people looked like ants. He was about to turn away when something caught his eye, something unexpected. A woman. She was several floors below, visible through a narrow window just past the cleaner's hallway. She moved as if she were floating, her body twisting and spinning, arms reaching toward the ceiling. There was no music, but it was clear she was dancing. Alexander narrowed his eyes. She wore a blue dress, faded and worn out, but the way she moved made the fabric come alive. She had no shoes on. Her feet glided across the marble floor with surprising grace. For a moment, Alexander forgot about Beijing, the contracts, even Lydia's voice in his earpiece. Who dances like that? Alone? He found himself stepping closer to the glass. She was smiling, laughing, even as she spun around, her hands in the air like she was chasing joy itself. Then, suddenly, she stopped. She turned her head, almost as if she felt someone watching her. She stared toward the window, her eyes squinting, searching. Alexander stepped back quickly. She couldn't possibly see him, not from that distance. But still, his heart beat faster. What just happened? He blinked and shook his head, then returned to his desk. Get me Marcus, he ordered Lydia over the intercom. Hope Carter bent down and scrubbed the floor near the executive boardroom. The expensive tiles were smooth but stained with someone's spilled coffee. She sighed, brushing a loose curl out of her eyes. The cleaning gloves were too big, and her knees hurt from kneeling so long. She looked around. The hallway was empty. Hope stood up slowly, stretching her arms above her head. Her back cracked. She glanced at the large window nearby. The sunlight poured in, painting the floor with golden light. She smiled. No one was around. She slipped off her gloves, kicked off the broken sandals she wore, and took a deep breath. Then, like a whisper, she began to move. One step. Then another. A twirl. A leap. Hope danced. Her body remembered the rhythm, even without music. She had once taken lessons as a little girl, back when Mama still had a small business and they could afford such things. Those days were gone now. Bills piled up. Mama was sick more often. But when Hope danced, she felt free. Her blue cleaning dress spun around her as she moved, her bare feet gliding over the marble floor. She laughed, closing her eyes for a second. For just one moment, she wasn't a cleaner. She was a dancer again. A star on stage. A girl with dreams. Then she froze. Her skin prickled. A strange feeling washed over her. She opened her eyes and looked toward the large window above the hallway. She couldn't see much, it was tinted, but it felt like someone was watching her. She squinted. Probably just tired, she whispered, brushing off the feeling. Hope slipped her feet back into her worn-out sandals and picked up her mop. Just as she turned, her friend and fellow cleaner, Mary, appeared around the corner. Hope, what are you doing? Mary whispered sharply. You know there are cameras everywhere. Hope chuckled, a little breathless. No one's watching. I just needed a break. Mary rolled her eyes. Girl, you and that dancing. One day it's going to get you fired. Hope shrugged. If dancing is a crime, I'll happily be guilty. Mary laughed. Come on, let's finish this floor before Mr. Ice Heart himself comes down. Hope raised an eyebrow. Ice Heart. You know, the boss. Alexander Steele. They say he once fired someone for sneezing too loud, Mary said dramatically. Hope giggled. That can't be true. You don't want to find out, believe me. Hope smiled, but her thoughts drifted. For some reason, she couldn't shake the feeling she had earlier. The sense of eyes on her. Somewhere high above, someone had watched her dance. And for a fleeting second, it had felt like magic. Alexander sat in his penthouse office again, staring at his tablet. But this time, he wasn't reading contracts or checking the stock market. He was watching security footage. Come on, he muttered, fast-forwarding through the feed of the hallway where he'd seen her dancing. He didn't know what was wrong with him. Since that moment, seeing her move so freely, so joyfully, he couldn't get her out of his head. Her laughter still echoed in his mind. Her smile. Her bare feet on marble. He hadn't felt this distracted in years. Not since. He shook his head, trying to stop the memory. No use thinking about the past. Sir. Lydia's voice came through the intercom. The legal team is ready for your review. Not now, he said quickly. There. He paused the video. It was her again. The girl in the blue dress. She danced like the world was hers. Like nothing else mattered. Alexander leaned closer to the screen. Who are you? He whispered. He checked the system, looking for a name. But the cleaner's records weren't in his main files. Just a list of contractors from a local cleaning company. No individual names. Lydia, he called through the speaker. She walked in with her usual clipboard. Yes, Mr. Steele. I need the name of a cleaner who was working on the 48th floor yesterday around noon. A woman. Wears a blue uniform. No shoes. Lydia blinked, confused. A cleaner? Sir. Yes, Alexander said firmly. Lydia hesitated. All right. I'll check with facilities. She turned to go, but glanced at the paused video on his tablet. Sir, are you watching camera footage of a janitor? Alexander looked at her, his eyes cold again. Is that a problem? No. No, of course not. She left quickly, eyebrows raised. Alone again, Alexander replayed the clip. He should have stopped thinking about her. He had empires to run. Deals to close. But that girl had danced like she wasn't poor. Like the weight of the world hadn't crushed her. She had moved like she was still, alive. And that haunted him. Hope hummed quietly as she mopped the hallway outside the executive lounge. The morning had been long, but she didn't mind. Cleaning was tiring, but her heart was light today. Maybe it was the sunshine, or maybe it was that quiet joy she'd felt yesterday when she danced. She hadn't been able to stop smiling since then. As she worked, she passed by a tall mirror hanging on the wall. She paused, staring at her reflection. Her blue dress was faded and a little loose, but her eyes were bright. A strand of hair had escaped her head wrap. She tucked it back behind her ear. She looked around. Empty again. Her heart skipped. She placed the mop to the side. Just for 1 minute, she whispered to herself. She stepped onto the dry part of the floor and began to move. Her arms rose above her head, her body swayed to a song only she could hear. She spun once, twice, laughed softly. Then, ahem. The sound froze her in place. She turned slowly. It was Mr. Ray, the floor supervisor. Short, round, and red in the face. What do you think you're doing? He barked. Hope opened her mouth. I was just dancing. During work hours. In front of executive suites. Are you out of your mind? I finished the area, no one was around. I don't care. He snapped. This is a place of business. You're not paid to dance like a clown. You're paid to clean. Hope lowered her eyes. Her heart sank. I'm sorry, she whispered. Not good enough. Get your things. You're done here. Her head shot up. Wait, fired? Yes. We don't tolerate nonsense. You're out. Now. Tears stung her eyes. Please, sir. I need this job. My mother, she's sick. I won't do it again. I promise. Get out. Hope turned away, wiping her face quickly as she grabbed her mop and bucket. Mary rushed over from the next hallway. What happened? I got fired, Hope whispered. What? Why? Hope gave her a broken smile. For dancing. Mary gasped. That's insane. I'll talk to him. No. It's okay, Hope said, forcing calm into her voice. It was my fault. I knew better. I couldn't help it. Far above, in his office, Alexander had watched the entire thing. He had pulled up the live feed again. He'd seen her start dancing, smiling so freely again. For a moment, he felt the same warmth. Then Ray appeared. Alexander's hands clenched into fists as he watched her face fall. The pleading in her voice. The way she wiped her eyes and walked away quietly, full of shame. He could have stopped it. One phone call, and she wouldn't have lost her job. But he didn't move. He just sat there, watching. His chest tight. Why didn't I stop it? Lydia walked in with a file. I found the list of cleaners. I think her name is Hope Carter. Alexander nodded slowly, still staring at the screen. Would you like me to have her brought in? Rehired? He hesitated. Then shook his head. No. Lydia looked surprised but said nothing. When she left, Alexander stood up and walked to the window, the same window where he'd first seen her dance. He stared out at the city, his jaw tense. Why had he let her go? Maybe because he didn't want to care. Maybe because caring meant breaking the wall he'd built around his heart long ago. But now, with her gone, the silence in the building felt different. It wasn't peaceful anymore. It was empty. Hope sat outside her mother's small room in the community clinic, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. She hadn't told Mama she'd been fired. Not yet. Her mother already had enough to worry about. She stared at her phone screen, blank, silent. No messages. No job. No money. A sigh slipped out. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. A message from Mary. Hope. Come back to the building tomorrow. There's a new opening in maintenance support. I gave them your name. They're hiring. I think it's for a special project or something. Hope frowned, blinking at the message. Why would they offer her a job again? She typed back quickly. Are you sure? I thought they fired me for good. Yeah, but this is under a different department. They didn't even mention the dancing thing. Just go. Hope hesitated, then stood slowly. She didn't know why they'd give her another chance, but maybe, just maybe, someone upstairs had a kind heart after all. In his office, Alexander watched the personnel list update quietly on his screen. Has she signed the contract? He asked Lydia, without looking up. She has. It's under maintenance support, like you requested. Lower floor, different uniform. She won't know it came from you. He nodded. Lydia crossed her arms, curious. May I ask, why you're doing this, sir? Alexander stared at the window, then said softly, she didn't deserve to be punished for finding joy. Lydia was silent for a moment. And the gift? She asked. Alexander opened a small box on his desk. Inside was a brand new pair of soft leather ballet flats. Elegant, simple, white. Have these delivered to her locker. No note. Lydia gave a small smile. Of course. The next morning, Hope returned to the building. Her heart was racing as she entered the security gates again, nervous, unsure. The new manager was kind. He didn't ask about her past job. Just gave her a new badge and a uniform that actually fit. As she walked into the staff locker room, she stopped short. There, on the bench, sat a small white box with her name on it. She looked around, no one. She opened it slowly and gasped. Dance shoes, she whispered. They were beautiful. Light. Exactly her size. Tears filled her eyes. Who? But there was no note. No message. Just a gift. From someone who saw her. From someone who believed she was worth saving. Alexander stood in the back corner of the charity event ballroom, dressed in a sleek black suit. The event was for underprivileged youth, a cause his company supported every year. Normally, he'd give a speech, shake hands, and leave. But tonight, he stayed. His eyes scanned the room. There, on the far side, was Hope. She was helping serve drinks. Laughing quietly with a few volunteers. Her face glowed under the soft lights. Alexander stayed in the shadows, watching. Something inside him shifted. It wasn't just her dancing now. It was the way she cared for others. The way she smiled even when life was unfair. The way she kept going. His heart, frozen for years, was beginning to melt. Over the next few days, Alexander found himself taking quiet walks through staff areas. He claimed it was for inspection, but everyone knew Mr. Steele never came down here. He passed the maintenance floor. Saw her from a distance. She was wearing the new shoes. Dancing lightly while cleaning a hallway. He smiled to himself. But one night, everything changed. Hope had just finished her shift. It was late, and the power had flickered on the lower floors. She took the back stairs instead of the elevator, humming quietly as she went down. She didn't notice the man standing in the corner of the stairwell until it was too late. "Hey, pretty girl," the man slurred. His eyes were bloodshot. "You dance for rich men, huh?" Hope froze. "I don't want trouble. Please let me pass." But he stepped closer, smelling of alcohol and sweat. "Maybe you dance for me." He reached for her arm. Suddenly, fast, firm, a hand grabbed the man's shoulder and yanked him back hard. "Touch her again," Alexander said coldly, "and you'll never walk again." The man staggered, recognized who it was, and paled. "Mr. Steele, I didn't know." "Get out," Alexander growled. The man ran. Hope stared, her breath shaky. "Who?" But by the time she turned around, Alexander was already walking away, his coat swinging behind him. She ran after him. "Wait, please." But the hallway was empty. He had disappeared into the night. Hope stood there, her heart pounding. She didn't know who her rescuer was. She only saw the back of a tall man in a dark coat. But something about the way he moved felt familiar. The crowd buzzed with energy in the heart of the city, gathered around a circle lit with string lights and laughter. Street performers danced one after the other, some doing hip-hop, others traditional moves. Then the host stepped forward with a wide smile. "Next up, we've got someone special. New to our stage, but already lighting up our hearts. Please welcome, Hope Carter." Cheers rose from the crowd as Hope stepped into the spotlight. Dressed in a simple white dress and the soft shoes someone had once gifted her, she took a deep breath. And danced. She didn't perform to impress. She danced from the soul. Her movements were soft, graceful, then strong, full of pain and joy all at once. Her body told a story of dreams that refused to die, of a girl who had suffered, but still smiled. And far away, near the edge of the crowd, hidden in a dark coat and cap, Alexander stood completely still. His heart clenched with every step she took. He hadn't planned to come. But Marcus had sent him a text earlier. "That cleaner girl you like. She's performing tonight. Go. You might need it more than she does." And so he came. Now, watching her spin and move under the lights, he couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears slid down his cheeks quietly, falling one after the other. Because Hope danced just like her. Emily. His little sister. The last time he saw Emily alive, she had danced in their backyard in the same kind of soft white shoes. She had laughed, twirled, fallen, and laughed again. Then the fire happened. And he had lost her. Since then, Alexander had buried everything. The guilt. The sadness. The love. He had built his empire, turned cold, refused to feel. Until Hope. Until now. He turned and walked away before the crowd could see him cry. Later that night, he sat in his office, staring at the city lights. Marcus walked in, holding 2 cups of coffee. He sat across from Alexander, quiet. "You went, didn't you?" Marcus asked. Alexander didn't answer. But Marcus saw the red in his friend's eyes. "You saw her dance. And you remembered Emily. Alexander's voice cracked. She danced exactly like her, Marcus. Same energy. Same fire. It was like watching my sister live again. And I broke. Marcus gave a small smile. Good. Maybe it's time. Alexander looked up, confused. Time for what? To stop hiding. To heal. To let someone in. Alexander stared at the floor. What if I don't know how? Then start with one thing, Marcus said. Talk to someone. A real therapist, not just me. You're not weak, Alex. You've just been alone too long. Alexander didn't respond right away. But the next morning, he booked his first therapy appointment in 15 years. Not for the empire. Not for appearances. For himself. And maybe, for her. Hope stood outside the delivery room at work, checking her messages. One of the new cleaners had handed her a small envelope that morning. Inside was a receipt for paid hospital bills, her mother's, completely covered. She didn't understand. She hadn't asked for help. And yet, someone kept watching over her. Saving her. The shoes. The job. Now this. She felt confused and angry. She didn't want to be someone's charity case. Mary walked by and said quietly, "You didn't hear this from me, but I think the boss is the one helping you." Hope blinked. "Mr. Steele?" Mary nodded. "Yeah. Lydia's been extra sneaky lately. And the shoes. She ordered them through the main office, but under his approval." Hope stared ahead, her heart racing. Why would a man like that, cold, rich, untouchable, care about someone like her? She needed answers. Alexander sat in his office, reading a report, when the door flew open. Hope stood in the doorway, her eyes blazing. He froze. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then Hope stepped inside and closed the door behind her. "So it was you." Alexander said nothing. "You gave me my job back. Bought me shoes. Paid my mother's bills. Why?" He leaned back slowly in his chair. "Because I could." Her jaw tightened. "I don't want pity. This isn't pity." "Then what is it?" she snapped, voice shaking. "You don't know me. You're rich, powerful, cold. You never even spoke to me before. So why?" Alexander stood up and walked around his desk. He stopped just a few feet from her. "You made me feel alive again." Hope blinked. He continued, his voice softer. "I've been numb for so long. Nothing mattered, just money, success, silence. Then I saw you dancing. Free. Joyful. Like nothing could touch your soul." His voice trembled. "You reminded me of someone I loved. Someone I lost. Watching you dance, it cracked something open inside me." Hope stared at him. "Why didn't you just tell me?" "Because I didn't want to ruin it," he said quietly. "I thought if you knew it was me, you'd be scared. Or think I was trying to control you. I didn't want to own your happiness. I just wanted to protect it." Tears welled in her eyes. "You helped me from the shadows. I didn't know how else to care," he admitted. Silence settled between them. Then Hope whispered, "I'm not used to kindness that doesn't come with a price." "There is no price," he said. "But, if you'd let me, I'd like to be part of your world. Even if it's just from the edge." Hope looked at him. And for the first time, she didn't see the billionaire. She saw a man, tired, broken, healing. Just like her. The morning sun rose quietly over the city, but the world wasn't quiet at all. News headlines exploded across every major channel, website, and social media feed. Billionaire Alexander Steele falls for janitor girl. Rich man, poor woman, a modern-day fairy tale or scandal. Cleaner girl dances her way into billionaire's heart. Photos of Alexander and Hope, some blurry, some clearly edited, were everywhere. A shot of her entering his office. Another of her dancing on the street. Another of him looking at her through a window. The story had leaked. And the world had something to say. Hope sat in her tiny room, holding her phone in disbelief. Tears stung her eyes as she scrolled through the comments. He must be bored to go for a cleaner. She probably trapped him, danced her way into his bank account. This is disgusting. He could have any woman he wants. She's after the money. Watch. And the worst of all, Vanessa. Vanessa, Alexander's longtime business associate and the woman many thought he'd marry, was interviewed live on a morning talk show. Hope watched in horror. The interviewer smiled. Vanessa, what do you think about the rumors that Alexander is dating his office cleaner? Vanessa laughed. Honestly, I think it's adorable, she said with fake sweetness. We all love a good charity story. He probably just feels sorry for her. It's a phase. He'll come back to reality soon. The crowd laughed along. Hope's heart shattered. She turned off the TV and sat silently on her bed. Her dance shoes rested beside her, the ones he gave her. They used to bring her joy. Now, they felt like a joke. A few minutes later, her phone rang. It was Alexander. She didn't pick up. Then came a knock at her door. Mary stood outside, holding a bag of groceries and concern in her eyes. Hope, are you okay? Hope nodded weakly but couldn't speak. I saw the news, Mary whispered. Ignore them. People love to pull others down. Hope looked up. I never asked for any of this. I was happy dancing in silence. Mary sat beside her. You still can dance. But maybe it's time you dance for yourself, not for the world. Hope looked away. He didn't even tell me the media knew. Now I'm a joke. Just then, her phone buzzed again. A message from Alexander. Please let me explain. Don't disappear. I'll fix this. But Hope stared at the screen, tears blurring her vision. Maybe we're just too different, she whispered. Maybe I don't belong in his world. And with that, she left her room and disappeared into the crowd outside. Alexander sat in his office, his hands gripping the edge of the desk. Marcus paced beside him. She's not answering. The press is having a field day. And Vanessa's making things worse. Alexander stood up. I can't just sit here and do nothing. Marcus looked at him. Then do something. Speak. Tell the truth. You're not just a man in love, you're a man with power. Use it. Alexander nodded slowly. Set the press conference, he said. Make sure the whole world hears me. Marcus smiled. Now that's the Alexander the first no. Alexander whispered, no. That's the man Hope helped me become. The press conference was set at the Steel Enterprises main hall. Every major media outlet showed up. Cameras clicked. Reporters whispered. Some thought it was about business. Others guessed it had to do with the viral romance story. Alexander stepped onto the stage alone. He looked tired but calm. Powerful but raw. He wore a simple black suit, no tie. For once, he didn't look like the cold-hearted billionaire. He looked like a man with something real to say. The crowd quieted. He stepped up to the mic. Good afternoon, he began. My name is Alexander Steele. And today, I'm not here to talk about my company, my wealth, or my empire. He paused, then looked directly into the cameras. I'm here to talk about a woman. A woman who changed my life. Reporters leaned forward, scribbling quickly. You all know me as the cold man in the tower. The one who built walls of glass and steel around his heart. That was true. He looked down for a second. Years ago, I lost my sister in a fire. Her name was Emily. She was bright, full of life, and she loved to dance. After her death, I buried my heart. I didn't let myself feel anything again. He looked up. Until I saw Hope. Gasps echoed through the room. She wasn't a model. Not a celebrity. She was a cleaner. Barefoot. Dancing by herself when no one was watching. Her spirit was free. Her joy was pure. And in that moment, I felt something for the first time in years. He took a deep breath. I didn't fall in love with her title. I fell in love with her soul. The room went silent. I helped her quietly because I didn't know how to approach someone so honest. I was scared to break her world with mine. But I never expected the world to turn cruel. His voice shook slightly. She doesn't owe me anything. Not gratitude. Not attention. But she deserves respect. The cameras flashed rapidly now. And then something happened. The doors at the back of the hall opened. Everyone turned. Hope walked in slowly, wearing a simple blue dress. The room froze. Alexander's eyes met hers and softened. Without a word, she stepped up onto the stage. The music technician, unsure what to do, watched as she nodded softly toward him. A slow, emotional instrumental began to play. And Hope danced. No words. Just movement. She spun, her arms reaching for the sky. She stepped close to Alexander, her body telling a story of pain, then healing, then love. The cameras kept rolling. Millions watched live as a girl from nowhere danced her way into a billionaire's heart. When she stopped, the room was quiet. Then slowly applause began. First one person. Then another. Then everyone stood. Alexander walked to her, gently took her hand, and whispered, "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to," she said softly. "For you. For me." Tears ran down his face. He turned back to the microphone. "I love her," he said, loud and clear. "And I don't care if the world laughs at me." Hope stepped beside him, held his hand, and said in her quiet voice, "Then let them laugh. We'll dance anyway." That night, the headlines changed. Love wins, billionaire and cleaner steal hearts worldwide. She danced. He wept. The world watched. A new kind of fairy tale, hope for all. People who had mocked now wiped tears. Vanessa stayed silent. And Alexander's walls? They shattered, completely. Because in the end, it wasn't money or power that saved him. It was hope. And the dance they now shared. Together. Please don't forget to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe to get more interesting stories like this.